Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC 289 Nunes versus Aldana. Now, for anyone listening at this time, you probably realize that this video is late because I've been busy, work, but no one cares. So I avoided all the spoilers, except for one spoiler, which was the main event. I did my best. I did my best to avoid it. I read ahead. I didn't read ahead. I got a notification. I accidentally swiped on it, and it said Nunes won in dominant fashion. So I was like, fuck. Not because she won, but fuck in the sense of like, I needed to score it without looking at the headline. And it was fine. I was like, all right, I can still score this. I've done this before, where I get spoiled and I can still score it correctly. And then I got news that she retired. We'll talk about that at the end. But apologies if this is low energy. I'm tired. I'm so tired, but it's fine. We're going to score the thing. We're going to score the card. Here we go. First of all, there are no injustices. Correct scorecards all around. We go straight to the honorable mentions, where there's just a bunch of niggles here and there. First honorable mention is Belbita versus Oliveira. I had this 30-27 for Belbita. In the first round, Belbita outstruck Oliveira on the feet. Oliveira had a takedown with very little ground and pound, but it wasn't. She did basically nothing with that ground with that takedown. The big difference in this first round, is it was a common theme in the three rounds, but especially in the first round, is they were both landing pretty much at the same time, which was very interesting, and was kind of hard to score. And the thing that definitely gave it to Belbita was her shots were accurate isn't the right word. They were much more impactful. They had they landed way more cleaner than Oliveira's strikes. Oliveira was throwing straight shots, but they would kind of just touch Belbita. But Belbita would throw hooks, a multitude of shots that landed much more impactful than Oliveira's strikes, and that's what for me defined the first round. You go to the second round. Okay, both had a takedown, but Belbita outstruck Oliveira on the feet and in the clinch and on the ground. She dominated this entire round. You go to the third round. Belbita outstruck Oliveira. Simple as that. That's where you get the 30-27. You go to the judges' scorecards. Jaron had a 30-27. Jason Dara had a 30-27. And then Chris Lee had a 29-28. He gave the last round to Oliveira. I won't give an honorable mention there. They were kind of both landing on each other at the same time, but it was obvious who was outstriking who. It's one of those things where they're both going back and forth. You can make an argument there for Oliveira, but yeah. You go to the next honorable mention. Dvorak versus Erceg. I had this 29-28 for Erceg. The last two rounds I gave to Erceg, 10-9. I put a close marker on the second round. I think it's kind of close. You can kind of argue the second round for Dvorak, but I gave it to Erceg. In that very first round, Dvorak 100% outstruck Erceg by about 5 strikes, but he still outstruck him. That's definitely his round. You go to the second round. Dvorak outstruck Erceg, but Erceg landed a few shots at the end. So here's where I find it very close. There's a common theme in this fight card. Weirdly enough, in this fight card, where a couple things happen the same exact way for different fights. In the second round, Dvorak is pretty much outstriking Erceg. Then Erceg lands a couple shots that leads to him basically getting that leads to him getting on top of Dvorak and then having in a submission attempt that isn't really in, if we're just being honest here. It's not really in, but because he attempted that submission attempt and he wasn't getting heavily outstruck on the feet, it's Erceg's round. But you can make an argument that the submission isn't in and he was getting outstruck on the feet by a little bit, and maybe that's Dvorak's round. Hence why I put the close marker, but it's obviously Erceg's round. You go to the third round, even on the feet, both guys had a takedown. And the big difference here is Erceg was heavily active in the clinch. Both of them landed a takedown. Both of them were pretty even on the feet. And then once it got into the clinch, Dvorak just was not active. Erceg was active. Clinch strikes on top of clinch strikes, and that's what won him the round. You go to the judges' scorecards. Saul D'Amato, his scorecard reflects mine. Jake Maxim, his scorecard reflects mine. And then Jaron Villel, honorable mention in Jaron Villel. Fucking nonsense. He gives all 3 rounds to Erceg. He doesn't give the first round to Dvorak. That's absolute nonsense. That's terrible. Honorable mention there to Jaron Villel. You go to the next honorable mention. You go to the next honorable mentions. Okay, Nelson versus Bilder. This was the fight I was thinking of exactly when I was comparing it to the Dvorak fight. There's a round here where I want to say it's the first round where Dvorak, Jesus Christ, where Bilder is outstriking Nelson, and Nelson kind of lands a couple of shots at the end, and Bilder is kind of backpedaling, right? That's kind of irrelevant given the fact that Bilder was outstriking Nelson, and then Nelson landed a couple shots at the end. That doesn't really give him the round. That's just me being mad at commentary for just assuming that, oh, Nelson won the round because he slightly hurt him at the end, even though he was getting outstruck the entire round. Okay, whatever. But that's just me being nitpicky. Anyways, that is 29-28 for Nelson. Last 2 rounds I gave to Nelson. Second round I put a close marker on it. First round I gave to Bilder. In that first round, Bilder obviously outstruck Nelson. Simple as that. He outstruck Nelson. The second round, close on strikes. Give the edge to Nelson because he finished pretty much close to the end. It's very close on strikes, but he finished the better. He finished better at the end of the round. And he was obviously the aggressor in that round. You go to the third round. Nelson outstruck Bilder. You go to the judges' scorecards. All right. You go to the judges' scorecards, and it doesn't even make any sense, actually. Mike Bell has a 30-27 honorable mention. That doesn't even make sense. They didn't even give the first round to Bilder. Okay. You go to Jaron Villel, 30-27, honorable mention there. Then Jason Dara, also honorable mention. He gives the first round to Nelson. Gives the last round to Bilder. Even though Bilder got outstruck. I know all the theatrics at the end. It made zero sense, actually. Like, Bilder was doing the thing where he was like, all right, let's go. And then he continued to get outstruck. So, whatever. We move on. Honorable mention, all 3. Next honorable mention. This one isn't really an honorable mention. It's more of just a mention. It's Imavov versus Curtis. The scorecard is the same on everyone's sheet. 10-9 for Imavov in the first round. This fight ends in a no contest because of a accidental headbutt. And the weird thing about this fight is towards the end, basically, when Herzog was going to call it off, it sucks to see that Curtis really wanted to fight. He really wanted to fight. But what I found really interesting wasn't that Curtis being ultra truthful and saying, yo, I just can't see, but I really want to fight. Give me a moment. It's the fact that there's not like this weird thing where there's this weird thing where if you get hit in the nuts, you get 5 minutes, which is I guess understandable, whatever, that's the rule set. If you get hit with an accidental headbutt, he doesn't get 5 minutes to just chill and get his eyes back. That's a little weird. I mean, one is definitely more important from a fighting aspect, obviously, right? You get hit in your balls, you can kind of recover from that a little bit depending how heavy the thing is, right? A la Jeremy Stevens. But no, that's an eye poke. Whatever, you get my point. The point is, gets hit in the head. He's like, yo, I can't see. It's a little blurry. It's a little dazed. Whatever Chris Curtis said. And Herzog, who, this isn't a shot at Herzog. I like Herzog. But constantly gets praised as, oh, great ref, great ref. And in that moment, I would assume it would be, here's 5 minutes. You can get the full 5. We can't give up full 5s for an accidental headbutt. Hey, let him recover. Let him get the 5, and then if he can't see after the 5, then call off the fight. Why? I'm a little. I was confused by the. I was super confused by the. Hey, we have to continue. Hey, we have to hurry up. Hey, we have to go. What the like? The UFC is on the time schedule. Not the refs. I was lost at that. That's what really had me confused. We go to the next honorable mention. All right, and that's Barriault versus Anders. Anders, excuse me. I had this 29-28. Okay, first round I gave to Barriault. Last round I gave to Barriault. Second round is close up. I put a close marker on that as well. You can argue it. You can argue a 30-27 for Barriault, but I put a close marker, 10-9 for Anders in the second round. In that first round, Barriault outstruck Anders, and he dropped him. Now, if he didn't drop him, it was sneaky close, given the fact that Anders was just very active. After he got dropped, he was just very active, and Barriault matched his output, hence why you can safely say that Barriault outstruck Anders, and also he dropped him, so that's Barriault's round. Go to the second round, very close on strikes. Very close on strikes. But I lean towards Barriault on that. The only reason why I give it to Anders is very close on strikes, slightly leaning Barriault on the strikes, but then Anders has a takedown. Again, if it's close on strikes, dude has a takedown, you give it to the guy with the takedown. Boom, that's where you go Anders. But it's so close. That round is very, very close. Go to the third round. Barriault outstrikes Anders pretty simple, and that's where you get the 29-28. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was 30-27. I don't see really a problem with that, but again, I give the second round to Anders. You go to the judges' scorecard. Saul Diamante had a 30-27 for Barriault. Mike Bell had a 30-27 for Barriault, and Chris Lee also had a 30-27 for Barriault. So there's that. Go to the next honorable mention. You have Ige versus Landwehr. Okay, I had this 29-28 for Ige. First 2 rounds for Ige. Last round for Landwehr, obviously. You go to the first round. Ige outstruck Landwehr. He was outstriking him, and then he drops him at the end of the round. The angle was weird when he dropped him, so I didn't get to see it. So I put like a question mark when I wrote the description of dropped. I was like, did he like really get dropped? Because we've seen it many times, right? People will get hit. They'll like, the angle is off, so you don't know if they actually got dropped. They show the replay. He gets dropped. I'm like, okay, he got dropped. Anyway, but even if he didn't get dropped, Ige still won the round based off of him outstriking Landwehr. You go to the second round. Same thing happens. Ige is outstriking Landwehr, and he drops him again. And then you go to the third round where Landwehr just outstrikes Ige. Again, it's fairly close because they're both kind of trading back and forth, but Landwehr is pushing the pace, and he's outstriking Ige. And that's where the round goes to Landwehr. You go to the judges' scorecards. Saul Diamato, his scorecard reflects mine, 29-28. Mike Bell, same thing, 29-28. And then Chris Lee, he gives the last round to Ige. Honorable mention to Chris Lee. Last round goes to Landwehr. And then you go to the main event, the one that got spoiled for me. It didn't get spoiled too bad, but it got spoiled for me. I had this 50-44. I think that's fair. Any excess 10-8s is just nonsense. It's nonsense, and they got bored of watching it. 50-44, 10-9 to all the rounds for Nunes, except for round 5, which is a 10-8 for Nunes. In that first round, Nunes outstrikes Aldana mostly with leg kicks and jabs. Second round, she outstrikes Aldana and gets like a takedown. In the first round, she kind of threw her on the ground, didn't really get on top of her to complete the takedown, but that's neither here nor there. In the second round, she outstrikes Aldana, gets a takedown. In the third round, outstrikes Aldana again, gets 2 takedowns this time. She lands some ground and pound. Fourth round, outstrikes Aldana again, has another takedown. Fifth round is where I think you can. Fifth round is the only round that should be even talked about for a 10-8. It's insane how we saw a 50-43 goofiness. But Nunes had a takedown with loads of ground and pound for about 3+ minutes. For literally the moment the fight started, I put 3+ minutes, but it could have been 4 minutes, really. As soon as the fight started, she lands one strike and then immediately goes for a takedown, gets it, and stays on top of her for the rest of the round. That is a obvious 10-8. And continues ground and pound. Aldana was slightly active on the bottom, but not active enough to deter a 10-8 by Nunes. You go to the judges' scorecards. Saudi Imavov's scorecard reflects mine. Mike Bell's scorecard reflects mine. And then Chris Lee. Honorable mention of Chris Lee for the round 4. He has the 50-43, but in round 4 he was a 10-8. Cool. Honorable mention it. That is it. That is all. This was a fun pay-per-view. If I weren't tired while watching it, I probably would sound more enthusiastic. I was screaming on the top of my lungs when Oliveira beat Dariush. Even though I like both fighters, I love both fighters, and it was just it was awesome to watch. It was awesome to watch. I'm happy for Oliveira. I guess last thing is Nunes retires. I don't like a part of me feels like maybe they were tipped off about her retiring, because even before she leaves the cage and talks into Dana's ear about retiring, the way they were talking about her coming out to the octagon was like, we don't know if this is the last time we've seen her. So I feel like they were tipped off. But the weird thing is, the thing that irked me, everything irks me. I don't know what it is today. But the thing that irked me when I heard the call was, there's nothing left for her to do. And objectively speaking, yes, if you're a dominant champion, there is nothing else for you to do. But in the world of MMA, there is always something for you to do, especially if you're able-bodied, young, still able to fight well, didn't accrue a serious amount of damage. There's always something for you to do. If Volkanovski were to retire right now, yes, we would go, yes, he's an amazing feather. He's one of the greatest featherweights of all time, blah, 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 Hall of Fame, blah, blah, blah. But we would all still in the back of our heads still go, there's still work for him to do, technically. Yeah. You could say the same thing for a lot of champions. But for Amanda Nunes, though, they were just quick to go, well, that's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing else for her to do. Pennington, she already beat Pennington. Aldana, she already beat Aldana. She already got her title back. And I'm sitting there going, no, this is really gross. This is actually really gross. Yes, she if we're going to be real here, she did double. She did what she was supposed to do, which is she's literally cleaned out the division. That phrase is used a lot about, he's cleaned up the division. He's lapping the division. I hated that when they were talking about Kamaru. That was nonsense from the beginning, because he didn't lap the division. He lapped 2 people, which was Masvidal and Covington. 2 people. So definitely didn't lap the division. Now, he was going to if he beat Leon. And that doesn't even count either, because he fought Leon when he was on his way to the title, not a championship fight. four of those fights where he doubled the person, Colby and Masvidal, they were all for championship fights. So that narrative is it's redonkulous. It's stupid. But anyways, back to the point. There's things for Nunes to do. I just didn't like how quick they were to just dismiss it. Oh, she's financially free. Oh my God, she has 7 title defenses. Oh, she already sparked Pennington. I'm like, okay, hold on. Pennington is still made an ascent. Pennington has still come back. She could have at least fought Pennington one more time. Boom. She could have at least fought Pennington one more time. But the thing that the media continued at, there was a stretch. Like, it was almost gross. Anik did this, and I like Anik, but there's times Anik kind of pisses me off because I don't know whether he's being fed this answer, and I don't think he is. I think this is a genuine opinion. I think Anik literally sat down and was like, there's nothing else for her to do. And it's gross because there was a segment in time where she was beating these girls before the Pena fight, and where Valentina was beating these girls before the Grasso fight. And it was the same thing where they would, there's the only question they would ask them, to the point where it would get annoying, but I would understand why they would ask them, which is, are you going to fight each other again? And both of them would essentially give the answer of, sure, if they offer it to us. And in a way, maybe the UFC probably should have offered it to them. They should have, but they didn't, and they decided, fuck it, let's just let these girls do their thing on the other side. And it's a shame because the narrative is shifted to, who actually is the greatest female fighter. And it's not fair because this is a genuine argument that needs to be had, and it's quickly just swept under the rug because of, well, if we're just going to be honest, because of how finish-oriented Nunes is or was, right? And the fact that they didn't even mention Valentina, the fact that they didn't even throw that in of like, yeah, okay, she beat her the first time. The fact that they don't even mention like certain it's insane the level of how far they'll go into mentioning controversial decisions. They'll mention like, oh, he thought he won that fight. Oh, that's a controversial decision. But they won't mention, hey, Nunes had a controversial decision against Valentina. Like, if she loses that fight, we wouldn't be saying GOAT so loosely. We wouldn't be saying GOAT so loosely. But they don't mention that. And that's a little that turns me off a little bit. That's something that could have been mentioned of, hey, that fight is still up in the air. I understand she's retiring, but that's something we would like to see. But now that she's retiring, I mean, she's decorated. She's one of the greatest female fighters of all time. Is she the best? Maybe. But I get it. They're the promotional tool, but I just didn't like that they didn't lob up any ideas for who else she could have fought. I mean, we don't have a female. Do we have a female trilogy? None that comes to mind. Nunes could have had 2 female trilogies. She could have had the Valentina one. It's insane how they don't even lob these up. We have DC, occasionally trying to matchmake and give us, Minot. Shut up. He's given us shitty matchmaking, but the one matchmaking that matters, the one matchmaking that matters is, hey, Nunes could have had a trilogy. We have trilogies all the time. The one trilogy that could have mattered in this scenario is her and Valentina. No. Her and Pena. Like, run back the Pena thing. Like, I know. There's no need to run it back, but run it. Like, come on. They even made the argument in, like, round 4, round 5, where, hey, at least Pena, Pena got flatlined, right? And it was 50-43, 50-44, whatever the goobers counted, right? I thought they inflated those scorecards, but that's me. They could have easily gone, hey, they made the argument, mid-fight, mid-Nunes Aldana. At least Pena went forward and took the brunt of whatever Nunes was dishing out. But she retires. She goes off into the sunset. And if I'm just looking at this a certain way, there's two things that could happen. This is what I'm thinking. If Holm beats Bueno Silva, we might get Holm versus Pena or Pennington. Oh God! Oh my Lord! I'm gonna kill myself. I'm just matchmaking in my hand. This looks disgusting. Holm versus Pennington, championship fight. Pennington versus Pena, championship fight. Bueno Silva the possibilities are endless and are not entertaining. And then we could possibly get Valentina maybe back at 135, maybe, right? But maybe, depending on what happens with her in the Grosso fight, it looks interesting, but it looks sad at the same time. And that's it. That's all I got. Thank you all for listening. Hopefully, I'm back next week with on time. And thank you all for listening, and God bless.